Hi, welcome to our home bar. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Wise Whiskey. I'm Tony, and today we're gonna do a blind tasting and ranking of 4 cask strength bourbons. Now, the whiskeys we are trying today are Still Austin cask strength from Texas. Still Austin. Maker's Mark 46 cask strength. Wild Turkey Rare Breed. And Chattanooga 111. So what I love about this is we have 2 craft producers versus 2 legacy producers. We've got a French oak, kind of double oaked with the Maker's 46. The Chattanooga 111 has a pretty unique malt and barley bill to it that's going to be a little different. So there's definitely some differences here. Proof-wise, we're in a pretty good range. We're in 111, 110.1, 118, and 116.8. So not a huge variance. None of these are up in that 130 plus range that gets really intense. So I think we have a pretty good proof range for these to compete. And actually, none of these are age stated. So I would imagine the Rare Breed and the Maker's Mark are going to be the older 2. Chattanooga does some pretty young whiskey, but they're transparent about that. And Still Austin being a Texas whiskey, you can definitely get a lot of barrel from younger whiskeys in the Texas climate. So let's get started here. On the nose, number 1. Floral. A little bit of spice. First sip of whiskey I've had in a few days, so we're going to take this first sip really easy. Okay, let's go in for a real sip. Really nice mouthfeel, which you would expect with a cask strength. Some really nice brown sugar sweetness. There's a little bit of a florality or a fruity note to it. There's a brightness to it. There's a touch of barrel, and there is a little bit of spice kind of on the back end. Pretty complex. Definitely a Kentucky hug going on. Got a little bit of heat. A really great all-around sip of whiskey. You're getting some of that sweetness. You're getting some interesting notes with that kind of brighter fruit floral note. There's a little bit of oak in there as well. There's a touch of spice. I mean, it just kind of ticks all the boxes. Really nice sip on number 1. And I have to tell you, haven't had a whiskey in a few days, and then going into a blind of foolproof, I was worried these were going to be a little, overwhelming on the palate, but that was a lovely, lovely sip of whiskey. Man, really good. So let me just think here. I'm kind of giving myself a score. I try everything twice if you haven't seen one of my blinds before, and I mix up the order I try them just to make sure, but I like to give them a score each time. And gosh, that was really good. We are starting out strong. Okay, number 2. I will say, what number 1 delivered on the palate? The nose was a little underwhelming, but man, the palate delivered. Now this has a darker nose to it. Maybe a little bit like licorice or anise or anise. How do you pronounce that? A little spice. Just completely different on the palate. This has a really soft mouthfeel, almost slick. Really good. I will say the palate kind of goes in one direction and stays there, whereas this first one kind of checked a bunch of different boxes. This is slightly sweet, soft, kind of like almost like a black tea. Nope, it doesn't go particularly tannic. Very little barrel character. Touch of spice, a little bit of heat. It's a really unique flavor, and it's very interesting. It is less complex, but it is a unique note. If I had to guess, that's the Chattanooga 111. Those are certainly notes that I've gotten from that whiskey in the past. But I gotta tell you, having these side by side, really cool. Because they're completely different experiences, even though they're both, cask strength bourbon. Wow. All right. Number 2, get some good points for being interesting and a flavor profile I like, but it is absolutely different. And again, it is less complex. Let's go to number 3. Now this has a little bit more barrel in the nose. There's an oaky note and a little bit of a spicy note. I have to say, none of these 3 on the nose have been particularly great. Okay. This one's more barrel forward. There's definitely more of an oaky presence. There is a nice sweetness there that hangs out with it. Funny enough, this is kind of going into some iced tea vibe, black tea vibes as well. But before you get there, there's more evolution. I don't love that what this leads with on the palate is that barrel note. It's kind of drying and tannic and woody up front. Then you start to get a little bit of the kind of classic bourbon sweetness, although it never fully develops into like a specific caramel or vanilla or butterscotch or brown sugar note. It just goes a little sweet. And then it goes into kind of like a black tea thing where it's still a little earthy, but it's not overly tannic or bitter. It's more complex than number 2 was. I don't know that I love the notes it's presenting more. So, objectively, a more complex whiskey. Subjectively, I think I enjoy the second sip better. And the more that you do tasting, understanding that difference in objective and subjective, I think is really important. If you're looking for complex, interesting whiskeys based off this first tasting, I would tell you probably try number 3 over number 2. If you're asking me which one do I want to sip on again and sit and enjoy, I'm going to say number 2. And when I'm doing these rankings for myself for these videos, I'm going to go more subjective. I'm going to focus on what do I think I like better, right? What do I think is a more enjoyable sip? If I was judging in a bourbon competition, or when I used to do some craft beer tasting and judging and things like that, I definitely focus more on the objective, right? Like if you're going to turn this in as a cask strength bourbon, then there are certain points and things that you need to hit along the way for that category. Or when it was beer, if you say you're a Belgian wit, there are very specific notes tied to that style of beer that you need to hit if I'm going to judge you correctly in a beer competition for a Belgian wit. Having said that, I could try 30 Belgian wits and I could objectively score all of them, but after the competition, I would be miserable because I hate that beer style and I wouldn't want to drink them again. But again, subjective versus objective is different like that, right? So yeah, I think, interesting whiskey. The fact that it's very barrel forward up front and none of these are super old, I'm guessing that's probably the Still Austin, just because Texas whiskey tends to be aggressively barreled. It just gets an oaky presence because of the climate. And even though I'm a lifelong Texan until recently, born and raised there, spent almost my entire life there, a lot of Texas whiskeys are not my favorites because they tend to have a barrel presence. And even with the legacy distilleries, the really old bourbons, the really barrel forward ones, it's just not my favorite flavor profile. They're interesting. You can see the complexity. I get that, but it's just not what I look for when I want a nice sip to sit with. So, okay. Moving on to number 4 here. Ah, man, this nose is completely different. And it makes me think that I'm way off track on my guesses so far. This is black pepper, licorice. Oh my gosh, that is an intense nose. And it is so different than the rest. There's a almost fruity note hidden in there, like a cherry that's becoming more prevalent, but that really strong licorice and black peppercorn is still there. This has got to be one of the craft ones, just 'cause, I mean, that nose is insane. I have a feeling I was off on the Still Austin thing. This is just such a crazy nose. I mean, it's like smelling, excuse me, it's like smelling a pepper mill. Like it is peppercorn. Nice. Huh. I need a second to wrap my head around that one. That one broke me a little bit. There is a sweetness that is neck and neck there with heat, and that peppercorn comes through. I've tried all these whiskeys multiple times, and I have never gotten a really strong black pepper note before from any of them, but it is there today. I am very thrown now. I will say that it's relatively not one note, because it's that sweetness and the peppercorn, but it's relatively 2 note. It's just not overly complex. I'm thinking maybe 3 was the Maker's 46, 1 was the Wild Turkey. I think 2 is the 111, but I could be way off there, and that could be the 46 in a weird way. And I'm guessing this is the Still Austin just because it's so intense. But I mean, maybe that 111 is just drinking different than I've had it before now that it's opened up. I gotta be honest, it's interesting. I don't like the nose on this at all. That really strong anise and black pepper. It's better on the palate, but it's still spicy and like, watch that be the Wild Turkey and I'm completely, yeah. I was feeling pretty confident about how we were doing here until I got to that last one. I'm not enjoying that one today. Definitely my lowest score on the first time through. Now I'm gonna kind of bounce around and kind of hop around here so that I can explore each of these one more time without having the exact same whiskey before or after. That way I know that my palate has a chance to kind of assess them differently. So we're gonna hop back to number 2. Much sweeter on the nose now. All the noses were very kind of, I don't know, maybe it's an allergy season kind of thing. The noses were not impressive. The 4th one had a very aggressive nose, but I didn't love it. The other 3 didn't bring a lot. This is definitely lightened up now. More of that classic bourbon sweetness on the nose. There is still like a little bit of a florality or something that's a little bright. I'm not getting that tea note as much. I'm thinking this might actually be the Maker's 46 now. I'm all over the place, guys. This one threw me. It's still not very complex, but it's sweet. There's a little bit of earth or tannin or barrel. There's something there to balance it. Yeah, I think I'm probably off on what I thought these were. I don't even know if it's worth trying to guess what they are anymore because I think I'm way off. On my second go around, I'm actually going to score it a little less. It's just, it's it's easy. It's not overly interesting. Then we'll go to number 3 again. Actually, I had 3 last time after number 2, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back to number 4. Yeah, that nose is still very aggressive. There's almost a honey there now as well that I wasn't getting before. You know, if I had to guess, this is the Chattanooga, and it's just not standing up to the rest, because in the past, that tea note, that malt forward note is definitely there. And I'm not really getting it here, but it's just so uniquely, it's got to be it's got to be a craft. The nose of this and the palate are just so not legacy bourbon, classic bourbon, that I just can't see that being a Maker's or a Wild Turkey. I love the Chattanooga 111. I got it as a birthday gift this year, and I was super happy to have that bottle on my shelf. It's one I've tried once or twice at some great whiskey bars in the past, and I was always really intrigued by it. I think they're doing really cool stuff. I have a feeling that's what bottle this is, and that just compared to these, it's not standing up today. It doesn't make me thinking less of the bottle, and as you can see, this is still a very full bottle, so it still needs some time to open up, and we're just getting past that kind of shoulder area right here, which once it drops down, that's when whiskeys really can taste a lot better. But unfortunately, whatever this is, the number 4 is definitely going to be in last place. And it's just not really doing it for me tonight. Again, a lot of the noses weren't doing a lot for me early on. I don't know if I didn't give them enough time to open up after my wife poured them, or if it's an allergy thing. Okay. Now we're going to go to number 1. You know, this nose is still not opened up a ton. It's not bringing a lot on the nose. Wow, okay. Honestly, on the palate, it's opened up quite a bit. It's a lot more barrel. Wow. The first go through, I loved that sip. And on this second go around, that tasted a little bit like licking a piece of wood. The oak and the spice are still there. The sweetness and the fruit or the brighter characteristics that I mentioned the first time really aren't. Wow, I have. Oh man. I mean, that scores significantly less than I did the first time. I'm all over the place again, guys. This one's been very difficult. These have changed drastically in the glass. And the nose on this has gotten sweeter. That's a much nicer pour at this point. It's sweet. It does have some character. Okay. Every one of those whiskeys changed drastically from first taste to second. For me, I had all this talk about objective versus subjective. And then the one I said was complex but not great, but now I think it's probably my favorite. I'm going to put number 3 in first place. I think that is probably the Maker's 46. I think in second place, I'm going to go number 2. And I'm guessing that's the rare breed. I actually moved one down significantly to third place, and I'm going to guess that's still Austin, and I'm going to say 4 is last place, and that's Chattanooga. So let's check the results. This was all over the place, guys. This one threw me for a loop. Okay, so oh man, I was so wrong. I think I was actually pretty right the first time through. Nah, I never really had a full. Yeah, this one screwed me up pretty bad, guys. Almost said a lot worse word than that there. This one threw me for a loop. So I ended up going with number 3. I had as first place, and number 3 was rare breed, of all things. And the first time I had it, I actually had it in third place. And the second time I went back, I was like, you know what? It's changed a lot, and I like it better. Wow. I mean, that's just... I mean, it's solid. I don't know. Okay. So in second place, I had number 2, which actually ended up being the Chattanooga. And I had the Chattanooga in second place the first go around, and then it ended up with a lower score, but ended up back there. And I think the first time we tried it, that I said number 2 is Chattanooga, it had that T note. The second time I tried it, it also changed drastically. I don't know. Yeah, it just changed a lot. And then I had number 1, I had in third place. And number 1 was Maker's 46. And the first time I tried it, I said that it had everything a bourbon should have. It was brown sugar. It had a little bit of a florality or fruity note, which I always get a little bit of a floral note in wheated whiskey. It had a touch of barrel and spice. Dude, the first time I tried that, this was like a quintessential bourbon pour. And after going around and trying other things and coming back, it tasted significantly less good. I just got to try another little pour of this, because I mean, it just like literally like, this is the one that broke my damn brain today. I mean, I don't understand. Yeah, that barrel is really coming to the front. It's oak forward. Now, whatever these other whiskeys did to my palate, the oak of the 46 cask strength is really up front. And I'm just not a barrel forward whiskey guy. And then, honestly, the one that had the worst score both times around is still lost in cask strength. And I have to tell you, I've been to Still Austin a couple times. It's a great facility. I'm a big believer in what they're doing. I think they're making probably the best bourbon in Texas. They're definitely making some of the best whiskey in Texas. They're growing at a time when the industry is not, and small distilleries are not. And I think there's a ton to be proud of there. This particular bottle of cask strength has thrown me from the day I bought it. I brought this home a couple years ago. You can see I haven't drank on it a ton. Every time I try it, it brings something new. It's like a chameleon. It just changes. And that black pepper, it was almost like having like pastrami or something. I mean, it was just so intense with the pepper and the licorice notes in there today. Just not for me. And I also, guys, these whiskeys changed a lot from first tasting to second, and I can't completely explain that. I can tell you that based off the first tasting, this being first place and having kind of all those just iconic bourbon notes makes totally sense to me. Me trying it later and then pouring a new sip and trying again, it being super oaky and barrel forward, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Why I found those tea notes and was so confident that this is my Chattanooga, and it had not a ton of complexity, which makes total sense for a young whiskey, but with the malt and the mash bill that they use, the notes that I found in there the first time totally, just made sense to me. And then yet the second time around, it just wasn't the same thing. Rare breed winning, I definitely don't have a problem with. I just, it probably honestly would have switched based off the first sip alone. But going back to it, this is always a great sip. And this is still a newer bottle, and you can tell it's opening up and just getting past the shoulders as well. I don't know that this, honestly, like this doesn't surprise me that we ended up in this order. What surprises me is how much these whiskeys change from first sip to second sip. And honestly also that for Maker's 46 to taste so much more barrel forward and oaky than Rare Breed is really wild to me and not something I really expected. I also do just want to point out, this is an older bottle of Cask Strength. I don't think it has the year on here, but I bought this quite a while ago. Probably 4 years ago now. That was a while ago. So I feel like if you bought a newer bottle of Still Austin Cask Strength, you'd probably get something a little different just because they've continued to grow and get better as a distillery. In fact, I'm not even sure that the master distiller that made this is the master distiller that's there now. So, just another one of those tastings where it kind of shakes your belief in what you're doing and makes you realize that you think you know a lot and maybe you don't. So that's me getting really befuddled by 4 Cask Strength bourbons. So folks, I hope you enjoyed it. I did, even if I once again don't look like I know anything about what I'm doing. I hope you had a fun time watching though. If you did and you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. If there's a Cask Strength bourbon that I didn't show today that you think I need to be highlighting and focusing on the channel, please let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, I'm gonna ask that you drink responsibly, you drink respectfully, but most of all, you have fun doing it. Thanks for joining me today. Cheers.